what do you wish for American viewers to know as they scroll through social media and they read about these democratic anti-corruption protests? What do you want them to know about your country and your government?
My dear friends in the United States of America, you're going to understand everything. See CNN, what CNN is saying, the truth is on the opposite side. You're going to see that they do and they say everything against me, exactly what they were saying about President Trump.
President Aleksandar Vucic has been a singular figure in Serbia since its bloody and brutal exit from communism nearly 30 years ago. A pragmatic populist with an economically neoliberal bent, Vucic's decade in power and his Serbian Progressive Party, or the SNS, has seen the country evolve from a European pariah state suffering the economically disastrous consequences of 10 years of sanctions from the US and the EU to the undisputed economic powerhouse of the Balkans. Since the SNS took power, Serbia's unemployment rate plummeted from 24% to just 8%, one of the lowest in the Balkans. Just last year, Serbia's economy grew nearly 4% with an 8% increase in foreign direct investment, with the SNS maintaining dominance in 2024's local elections, and Vucic still as broadly popular as ever. Until all of this came quite literally crashing down with the November 1st collapse of the Novi Sad train station canopy, killing 15 Serbs and injuring 2. Since the collapse of this newly renovated train station, protests have taken over the country and brought bridges, roads, and all of the country's higher education to a standstill. I went to the nation's capital to investigate, and 2 days after some 250,000 demonstrators tried to demand Vucic's resignation, I went to Novi Dvor, the presidential palace, to interview the man who would not back down.
What do you perceive the protesters of wanting at this point?
They wanted, first of all, many of them wanted to have a real revolution, which means an overthrow or toppling down myself, and they don't know how to explain it. You rightfully noticed they didn't speak about real politics, about real plans, about real changes, about real programs, because they cannot find a common denominator on any single matter.
Vucic here is actually correct. Nearly none of the demands of the protesters for months now, most of which the SNS has already capitulated to, pertain to the actual canopy collapse.
What accountability were the protesters asking? 20% increase in higher education funding, relief from criminal charges for the protesters. There's one item that they asked for that was somewhat relevant, the release of the documents related to the railway reconstruction. We know this. 2 companies reconstructed this canopy, which was long overdue for reconstruction because it was a 50-year-old train station built under communism. China Railway Group Limited and China Communications Construction Company Limited. You would think that China would be of interest to the protesters, but they weren't. Not one of the demands has to do with transparency with the deals with Beijing, because we know if by Chinese law, all companies report to Beijing. They report to the communist government. What do the American and Western headlines say? They say the protests are anti-corruption, pro-democracy. The Telegraph said it was an anti-Putin protest because it's a lazy, easy narrative for Westerners to understand, right? We just think everything is about Putin. And the fact is, it wasn't.
Vucic, for his part, has been quietly much more supportive of Ukraine's defense against Russia than the West has given this Orthodox Christian country credit for.
Podržavamo teritorijalni integritet Ukrajine u skladu sa poveljom Ujedinjenih nacija.
While the country has maintained its public policy of effective neutrality, the Vucic administration has siphoned nearly €1 billion to Ukraine since Russia's invasion.
I want to ask about the Novi Sad canopy collapse.
Nobody was mentioning it.
No.
Nobody was interested in that. If you see that someone was organizing something because of terrible tragedy, you don't organize then a carnival. You don't organize big music festivals. And they didn't care about it, and we knew it. They heard a voice of so many family members that were saying, we are not interested in your protests. We want just justice.
Is there any concern about the use of Chinese builders and Chinese investors? Has the canopy collapse caused
Everything-
any rethinking of that?
I know that you would like to hear from me something bad about Chinese, whatever. I cannot say that. What they were doing many things, they do it quite well and in a proper way. And if I would say Americans were building the widest and the best highway in this country, and we were very much criticized by all those protesters because of that highway, saying, well, you paid a lot to American company, you paid twice more than you needed. But they built that. They built that in a terrific way, and we are happy to have it.
President Vucic is in a precarious position on the divide of the Occident and the Orient, in part because of the messy legacy of the 1990s. When the West sanctioned Serbia even after communism was ousted and its dictator detained at The Hague for war crimes, Russia and China filled the vacuum, both economically and diplomatically. But Donald Trump threw out the failed American playbook, brokering a landmark economic normalization deal between Serbia and Kosovo during his first term. And now, Donald Trump Jr. visiting Vucic personally in the days before this protest. His second term promises more to come.
I believe that his way of thinking, which is mainly out of the box, we like it very much, because if you have always the same type of prejudices and everything that was a legacy of Clinton's politics, you cannot do anything here. You cannot change anything in a positive direction. And Trump's approach is something that brings us a real hope. It is a ray of hope at the end of a tunnel. I don't know whether he's going to have enough strength to keep on working that way on delivering at the end in every single corner of the world. But no doubt, this is a big hope for us. And we believe that we need Serbian people to change their attitude towards the United States of America. And in order to do so, we need this kind of president's approach. And people will like to see that, more of that. And we believe that we can be a true and a reliable partner of the United States of America.
March 15th was supposed to be D-Day, or the day that would bring the populist president's reign to an end. But D-Day has come and gone, the streets cleared out, and Vucic still stands in the royal palace that once housed the since-deposed Karađorđević dynasty. Past leaders of the country may have been forced out of power, but Vucic is banking on something different. For the first time in modern history, Serbia has a friend in the White House. I'm Tiana Lodesher, and this is the Washington Examiner.